To ensure that whoever possesses it understands its power, the stone demands a sacrifice.
Really? Tears?
They're not for him.
I'm sorry, little one.
We have Nick here. He's the product manager for Whipple. Guys, we all know Whipple is supercharged power. So with that said, hey, tell us about yourself, Nick, and how did you get started in supercharging?
I actually grew up in New Jersey and worked for a small shop out there. And man, I love the automotive aftermarket. And it was my dream to always work for a manufacturer and be involved with, product R&D and development and, interface with customers, go racing. And, a few years back, my wife and I took the leap, moved from New Jersey out to California, both started new careers. The future outlook of this company is terrific. And you guys, man, I can't wait to show you what's coming soon.
One of the neat things about Whipple is that right now I guess I call it like I call it pro stock. It may be something else, but like the drag pack, the Cobra Jet, both of those vehicles run a Whipple supercharger, correct?
Yeah, the Cobra Jet has the 3-liter Gen 5.
The Supercharger is a Whipple twin screw positive displacement blower.
Very similar to the street supercharger that we sell for the Mustang GT. And the drag pack currently has a 2.9 liter, but there's an upgrade coming pretty soon for that.
One thing I want to ask you is why supercharger? What makes supercharger so good, or can you tell us about a supercharger?
Yeah, supercharger is really a belt-driven power adder. There's a few different types. You have your, roots. You have a twin screw, like what Whipple makes, and then you have a centrifugal supercharger that's really like a belt-driven turbo. Roots usually really good for low speed, low end power, where a twin screw is a newer technology. It's better for a broader operating range, good power down low, mid range, and really screams up top where you hear that blower whine. Centrifugals, like I said, a belt driven turbo, so you don't really have as much bottom end punch, but once that thing starts to get spooled up, that's where they usually shine. So really, it depends on the application. My favorite, obviously, is the twin screw because it has such a broad operating range.
Yeah, I tend to like the twin screw as well. A lot of people feel like if you take a supercharger, you just want to push more air into the engine that's going to give you more power. Is that always true? More boost is better?
To a point. Boost is what everyone uses, to measure how much extra power they're going to get, how much boost you're running. Well, boost is really restriction in the air intake manifold. So you get to a point where boost starts to climb up, but your camshaft's too small, or your valves are too small, or your heads don't flow enough, or the engine's just so tiny, cubic inch wise, that it just starts to back up. And you get to a point of diminishing gains on that. And that's when you have to make the air pump, the engine, underneath the air pump, the supercharger, more efficient so you can get that air through it, process it, spray more fuel in there, make more power.
Good deal. So efficiency tends to be the key in drag racing, correct?
Efficiency is always the key in success with internal combustion engine, and also superchargers too, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a little bit.
Okay. Hey, tell me the difference between superchargers and turbos.
Well, turbochargers exhaust gas driven. Two impellers basically, or inducer, exducer, or those turbo guys will probably rip me apart for that one. But you have to get that thing going. So the engine has to start making power and start moving air to spool up that turbo, and that's the lag that everyone talks about. For racing, there's ways around that with two steps and the right camshaft, and it usually ends up being a little bit more of a complicated build, whether you're single or twin. how to stage the car is usually a little bit more complicated, where you see people bumping in. And man, a supercharger, you get up to the line, you can foot brake that car, let off the brake, mash the gas, and you're off.
Now, how do you feel about putting superchargers with nitrous?
Oh, well, it just depends on what the goal is. Nitrous has a cooling effect as well, which helps make more power. If someone takes a supercharger and is using a small displacement supercharger and gets to the limit of where that thing's moving air, they can add nitrous on top of it, cool the air charge down, and make a ton more power. So it's really no different than putting nitrous on a naturally aspirated engine or even a turbocharged engine.
All right, guys. Hey, we have AJ Burge in, the famous tuner from Hemi Tuner. I know we have a lot of questions that you guys probably want to know, but I figured let's bring in a true expert that can really get down and bite that apple. So, AJ, we got a new supercharger. I hear rumors it's probably coming out.
Well, I mean, obviously, we're excited for new product with Whipple because, some of the other companies are getting in there with a lot larger blowers to handle the requirements of the Hellcat. So I guess the biggest question is, what do we have coming? What do we have to look forward to that's going to crush some of these larger blowers from our competitors and get us into that 7-second territory?
Ooh.
Well, there's two things in development right now. Specifically, for Hellcat and Demon, there's the 3.8 liter. We teased that around the internet a little bit, just showing one of our universal housings that is mainly for a Ford application and a few others. But the intent is to develop a Gen 5 3.8 liter for the Hellcat and Demon platforms. That's an inverted unit, so it has the top mount dual pass intercooler, like what we do on the Gen 5 Mustang kit. And, I've already had some people reach out and say, oh, 3.8, but you already have, a 4.5 liter. Why is it smaller? Well, the older technology is a 3x5 rotor pack. The Gen 5 technology is a 3x4 rotor pack. And over the past few years, the Whipple engineering team has leaps and bounds made improvements on supercharger rotor technology, allowing us to move way more air with a smaller supercharger than we previously did with larger units. All of that is, combined to efficiency as far as how much power it takes to spin the supercharger, and then inlet shape and port timing and rotor profile, and all that adds up into being able to make more power with the smaller unit.
To your point, I think that's what a lot of the mystery is behind the supercharging, which is why I've always stuck with Whipple, because it's always on the cutting edge of the rotor technology. And maybe you can explain, to everybody, just on some of the testing that you guys have done, just how much difference power-wise you can get when you have a smaller unit that's 10 or 20 or 25% more efficient, like the Whipple units are. I think it's I think it's hard for people to grasp just how much more efficient the engine is.
You also, too, you run into packaging issues where, we can keep going bigger with the older rotor technology, but then we can't fit it under the hood of a lot of these late model vehicles. For instance, there's cars making, I'm sure you've seen 1,200 horsepower to 4.5 liter. And, you can probably go a little bit more than that, but it starts to run into a little bit of a wall. 3.8 liter, I think at 1,500 horsepower is just getting started.
Wow.
It's going to be a pretty dramatic jump. It outperforms the 4.5 by far. I can't be specific right now, but as the months go on and more testing data is released, everyone's going to be pretty shocked on what these new units are capable of doing. Heck, we already have a 3-liter Gen 5 making 1,200 horsepower to the wheels on street applications, and then on applications like the Cobra Jets, they're 1,500 horsepower plus on those engines, and that's just 3-liter.
Well, tell me this: can you put a supercharger on a V6, a 5.7? What all applications can you add a supercharger to, Nick?
When there's a will, there's a way. You can add a supercharger to any internal combustion engine if you really put your mind to it. But what it really comes down to is engineering and designing, cast aluminum parts. So it's all bolt on and You don't have to do any extensive modifications, and really can just install one of these with basic hand tools. That's the goal when we're developing a supercharger kit.
Sounds good. AJ, what's your thought on supercharger versus turbo? I know we get that a lot.
Again, you know, I think for a street guy and from a packaging standpoint, that the supercharger is the way to go. It makes the power where you want it, when you want it. You know, the turbos, they're great in their own right. And you know my feelings on that. I mean, you know, we can typically get the turbos to outperform superchargers in certain applications, but I think for the street, and especially our Hellcats, you know, what makes it a Hellcat is the supercharger platform. So,
yeah.
Agreed,
so
yeah.
I mean, again, we could easily throw turbos on a Hellcat. We've had this conversation and make 12 or 1300 at the wheel. We've been doing it for years on the Dodge platform. But to have a supercharger that's packaged well, without the complexity of the turbos and the system, you know, and have somebody to stand behind it like Whipple does, and still achieve those 12 or 1300 wheel horsepower numbers, I think we're going to turn a lot of heads. I think a lot of people are going to be surprised. So,
say, Nick, tell me, out of the new superchargers that you have coming down the line, do you think that it will hit Mustang first, Dodge second, Chevy third, or what order do you think that y'all create those in? Or is it going to get everybody all at once?
We're in some crazy times in the world right now.
Parents with children at Treadwell Middle and elementary schools are not playing around. Many wiped their kids down, and some even sprayed them with disinfectant spray as they took them home Monday. Some took more extreme measures.
It's messed up. The flu killing more folks than everywhere, so what's up? We're going to die anyway.
Now, that said, right now it's looking like the first 3.8 will be for the 07 to 14 Shelby GT500. It's a little bit more simple of an application.
Mustang is going to be first.
I'm sorry, but the Hellcat Demon is a high priority. Now, I feel like we're leaving out the 5.7 and 6.4 guys right now, so you know, I'll go ahead and say we are also working on something new for those. That will be the 3-liter Gen 5, also inverted with the dual pass intercooler that sits on top. So there is an upgrade coming for the 5.7 and 6.4, as well as the 3.8 for the Hellcat and Demon. So a lot of new products in the pipeline for 2020 and early 2021.
Man, I know it's a lot of guys are going to be happy to hear that, because it's so many 5.7s and 6.4s out there on the streets. And for them to be able to get a company like Whipple to stand behind them and get such an upgrade, is going to be really, really easy, fast power. Any other questions, AJ?
Yo, listen, just when can we get it? I've worked with the drag pack, so I've seen some of the numbers in the background. So and out of respect to those guys, I won't put up the numbers that I've seen either. But I mean, I'll tell you for sure that you know, me personally, I'm very excited for what we're going to do with the 5.7, especially with that inverted unit. If it behaves anything like it's behaved with some of the factory stock stuff, yeah, we're going to see power gains that we've never seen in these cars, and people are going to be needing better bottom ends.
Hey Nick, a question Nick, a question I have, and you brought this up. You know, what is it going to take for a supercharger to make a car as heavy as the Demon or the Hellcats to run in the 7s? Now, you brought that number up, not me. So,
well, I think that was AJ. What kind of are you talking about here?
I'm guilty.
They're pretty big cars. You know, you see the jokes around for it, but you know, the car has its place in the market. You know, they are super comfortable, and man, I hope they continue producing them this way. And yeah, you know, the guys on the Ford side or the GM side might, you know, call them boats or have you not, but you know, they have their place. You know, you get a 6-foot-something guy trying to sit in a Camaro or a Mustang with a helmet on. It's not so easy.
Hey, AJ, one question that I have for you is that a lot of people say the supercharger power is pretty much instantaneously. That when you put the foot down and you spool it up, the supercharger is ready to go really, really fast. What secrets do you use to get the car out of the hole from a dig using the supercharger?
All about power management.
There you go. That's what I like to hear. Don't give them nothing, AJ. Power
Listen,
management.
man, I can't give all my secrets away.
No, that's all right.
It takes years. It takes years to get that stuff.
Okay, so right now I know we got the Corona thing going, and I've been praying for everybody. Corona be gonna, but as soon as the Corona is over with, what's the next big thing that you guys got going at Whipple, Nick, when this Corona mess is over with?
No, we haven't really put anything on hold. We're still producing superchargers and filling orders and continuing the R&D for the new products. But what we're really looking to get back into is racing and going back to the track, supporting the NMRA, NMCA, and NHRA. There's a lot of drivers out there and a lot of teams who have a lot of time and money invested into these builds, and they're just itching to run them at the track, and I feel them, and I think that's the biggest thing moving forward in 2020.
Man, 100%.
We're ready.
Everybody is anxious to get to the drag strip so we can run these cars and just have
I just keep ordering more parts.
When you order a supercharger from Whipple, do you have it already sitting on the shelf, or do you build it, or it just depends on which item it is?
It depends on which item and the time of the year. You'll see sometimes we run those 15% off sales, and that will put us a little bit further behind on orders. But typically it's about 4 to 5 weeks on average. Yes, every unit is built custom in-house, per order. A lot of times the guys want yellow, blue, purple, pink.
Yeah, because you can paint your suit, you can
powder
powder coat them, right?
We're really the only manufacturer that will powder coat that thing any color you want, and that adds a little bit of time and complexity, but it differentiates us, and we won't ever get rid of that option.
Wow. Hey, I wonder, can you guys do like a mirror powder coat? I can see when you look at the Supercharger, you look at yourself.
They polish it.
Yeah, we have we do the polishing in-house, and you do a clear powder over it. 100%.
And it'll look just like a mirror.
You can look at yourself in your Supercharger every day.
Hey man, I want them people to see what their souls look like when I snatch them up in my Supercharger.
Man, too funny.
I just have them look at the Supercharger and they can see their souls right off in there. When putting nitrous to a Supercharger, how do you like putting the nitrous to it? Do you put it on the throttle body? Do you plumb it in? What do you like doing with nitrous on the Supercharger?
I like to do it after the Supercharger rotors. There is a coating on those, and the coating it's a durable coating, but just like guys that spray meth injection or nitrous, too much temperature differential on the rotors or the coating can degrade it over time. So I like to spray after the Supercharger rotors into the manifold. Would you agree, AJ?
I think that's one of the major, boiling points that lead to blower failures on the guys that are spraying. You have tight tolerance in the rotors to begin with. You have to understand that with the rotors spinning, there is a timing issue there. Like if the rotors didn't have a certain timing to them, they'd crash into each other. Mm-hmm. So that mesh creates a clearance, and when you're injecting nitrous in there and you're changing the temperature and especially changing it at speed, depending on what the ambient temps are and how hot the case is on the outside to the rotors on the inside, you could really cause some big problems that lead to some of the failures that we've seen in our market, where you end up with a nice hole in the hood and an even nicer hole in the Supercharger.
Wow.
So
wow.
Don't want that.
Don't want that.
Yeah, no, always spray after the Supercharger is, and then you're also taking advantage of the airstream and the air velocity from the output of the Supercharger, and you're playing that more into your tune-up rather than trying to spray everything into the blower, because most people that spray the throttle body, Herman, you got to remember they're spraying fuel and nitrous. So now you're also relying on that mixture inside the Supercharger, and when you get some of the larger Superchargers that the rotor packs are longer, the distribution of that, as if you have a rotor that's longer and you're going down that path in airflow, it gets more, the distribution gets less and less equal as it gets to the backs of the rotor. So if you're going to rely on the rotors to make your mixture, you're probably not going to get everything into the cylinder that you think or want to get. So you can tune that better spraying after the Supercharger.
Sounds good. Well, hey guys, there you go, man. We got it from AJ and we got it from Nick over at Whipple Superchargers, guys. Hey, get ready. Whipple Supercharger is coming out with some great products. Man, everybody's going to be going a lot faster. Make sure you get your orders in today so you can be out on the track snatching souls. Hey, thanks a lot for joining us today, guys. See you out on the tracks. Peace. Hey guys, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and also click the bell. Check out the videos up at the top. And if you get a chance, check out our merch store. Peace.